Ladies and gentlemen, good day and thank you for holding. Welcome to the National Resource Center for Healthy Marriage and Families webinar conference. Today's conference is being recorded. At this time, I would like to turn the conference over to Jill Scullin. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Peter, and hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the National Resource Center for Healthy Marriage and Families webinar entitled Working Together to Promote Family Stability and Child Health and Safety. My name is Jill Scullin, and I am part of the Resource Center team, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items I'd like to go over. Just to let everyone know, again, this webinar is being recorded. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, but we encourage you to submit any questions that you have throughout the duration of the webinar. So to ask a question, you'll find the question and answer pane designated by the letters Q&A at the top left portion of your screen. You can click on that portion of the menu bar to open the pane, or you can open the pane and drag it off the menu bar to display it as a standalone box. Type your question into the top portion of the box, click the Ask button, and you will receive an automatic reply thanking you for your question. And this will free up your question and answer pane to ask another question if you choose. If at any time you'd like to view the presentation full screen, you can press the F5 button. And then to get out of the full screen mode, you can hit the F5 button again or escape. So that is all I have, and at this point, I will turn the call over to Ted Futurist. Ted.
Thank you, Jill. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our webinar this afternoon, introducing you to the National Resource Center for Healthy Marriage and Families. Our focus here today, and all our attendees here today, are Extension colleagues from across the country, and we will be talking about how we can work together with Extension and the National Resource Center to promote family stability and child health and safety through the sharing of resources focused on marriage and relationship education skills. All right, there we go. Thank you. And our presenters here today, we're very fortunate to have Aida Bafano, our National Program Leader in Child and Family Development from the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, NIFA, with USDA, as well as Robin Senazal, our Project Director for the National Resource Center for Healthy Marriage and Families. And then I will share some information. I am with Cooperative Extension here at University of Georgia, and Francesca Aller-Bader, who is at Auburn University on faculty there, and also co-director of the National Extension Relationship and Marriage Education Network, which you'll learn a little bit more about this afternoon. And so I'm going to turn it over to Aida for a brief welcome.
Hello, good day to you all. This is Aida Balsan, and I wish to welcome you all and thank you for joining us today. I bring you greetings from the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, NIFA, and from our Division of Family and Consumer Sciences. NIFA is one of 4 USDA agencies that make up research, education, and economics mission of the department. As you know, it was created in 2008 by Congress through the Food Conservation and Energy Act, and it was created in replacement of cooperative state research, education, and extension services which have been in existence since 1994. NIFA's mission is to advance knowledge for agriculture, the environment, human health and well-being, and communities by supporting research, education, and extension programs in the land-run university system and other partner organizations. Earlier this month, on May 8th, Dr. Sani Ramaswamy was sworn in as NIFA's new director. This year, we celebrate 150 years of establishment of the United States Department of Agriculture, and as we celebrate, we also take time to recognize continued significance and role of cooperative extension when it comes to promotion of family stability and children's health and safety. In 1862, in a span of just 3 months, President Lincoln signed into law 3 very important pieces of legislation that would have a profound and lasting impact on U.S. agriculture and society, as you know. He brought up an act to establish the Department of Agriculture, Homestead Act as well, and then Moral Land Grant College Act, which provided public lands to U.S. states and territories for establishment of colleges specializing in agricultural research and instruction. Today, we have 109 universities with land grant status. In 1862, 57 institutions received the designation of a land grant status. 18 more institutions joined them in 1890s. These are historically black colleges. And then in 1994, 34 tribal colleges joined the land grant system. What this means is that today we have over 5,000 university faculty through this amazing network of researchers, specialist educators. We have more than 3,000 county administrative offices and over 8,000 county extension educators. In 1914, through the Smith-Lever Act, Cooperative Extension Service was created. It represents a network of campus and community-based faculty and staff, and we are fortunate to have this in the United States. The legislation from 1914 designated a county agent as integrator, demonstrator, and disseminator of research-based knowledge generated by the USDA and the land-grant colleges. And today, Extension provides educational outreach in a myriad of agricultural, environmental, and human well-being areas. I welcome you all today to this webinar, and I thank you for all the work you're doing to support well-being of individuals, families, adults, and children alike throughout the United States. I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and we look forward to hearing from you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aida. And so with today's webinar, we hope to kind of build on the expertise that all of you have, state specialists, regional specialists, county educators, different roles. We have a real mix of extension colleagues on the call today, and you all play different roles, and we hope to highlight that. So our goal with the webinar here today is outline what is the mission of the National Resource Center, what are we trying to accomplish, describe really what is the role of Cooperative Extension in this partnership that we have forged with the National Resource Center, and share some strategies for how to engage our stakeholders, who Robin will describe here in a bit and clarify who we're trying to reach out to in promoting healthy and stable families. And then at the end, I'll share some announcements about upcoming events and training opportunities that we hope you will participate in, hopefully also share with stakeholders that you work with in your state, in your counties, in your communities. So I'm going to transition now over to Robin Senzel, who is the director of the National Resource Center for Healthy Marriage and Families, who will talk to us a little bit about the purpose and mission and focus of the National Resource Center.
Thanks, Ted, and welcome everyone. Good afternoon. I am excited to share with you information about the National Resource Center for Healthy Marriage and Families, and I'll start with talking about our mission. Our mission is to connect healthy marriage education skills and safety net services as an integrated approach to strengthening families. And I know that many of you working with families are very aware of the need to connect these services, and we're going to help you with that mission. So let me tell you a little bit more about who we're talking about when we say safety net services. For us, when we refer to safety net service providers, we are referring to all the federal, state, tribal, and local government agencies that are indicated here on this visual that you see. Primarily, we're looking at child support, child welfare, Head Start, TANF, workforce investment boards, and all of their community partners, basically all of the agencies that you would typically think about when you think of support services for families. You'll also see indicated on here healthy marriage and relationship education skills. The primary skills that we believe support the foundation for families in their efforts to move towards self-sufficiency are parenting skills, communication skills, financial literacy skills, and conflict resolution skills. We also believe that job and career advancement skills are very important in helping move these families to financial self-sufficiency as well. So our focus is to encourage the integration of healthy marriage education skills into these safety net service delivery systems. We often hear that when we're talking about healthy marriage education, we often hear stakeholders indicate that they don't serve couples. And so we wanted to make sure that we point out the benefit of serving individuals as well. Individuals are often either in a relationship, just getting out of a relationship, or about to go into another relationship, so they can all benefit from relationship education skills. But we also believe that the benefits extend to getting and maintaining jobs, increased financial self-sufficiency, reducing co-parenting conflicts, increasing family safety and stability, and strengthening parent-child relationships. So we do believe that there is a tremendous benefit even to individuals who are participating in these programs. So what do we offer at the Resource Center? Well, the Resource Center is actually a virtual resource center, so the resources are available throughout the country. We offer research that supports the efforts to educate leadership and colleagues on the value of healthy marriage education skills and the benefits of integrating them into service delivery systems. We also offer resources, tips, and tools to use with families that you serve, and can link to those tools on your website or download them and offer them even through safety net service waiting room areas. So, for example, if somebody goes to a WIC office, there could be handouts there available to them. And our training and technical assistance team support stakeholders, including organizations like yours, as you work to implement integration strategies. So this just gives you kind of a snapshot of what our Resource Center looks like when you go to it. What's interesting about the Resource Center, and slightly different than some other resource centers you may be familiar with, is it's really designed to be toolkit format. We don't have a lot of heavy text on the website. The idea is to make sure that we have the information that you need with links to existing resources or information down in our library, additional resources that might be helpful to you. As you may be aware, the Resource Center is relatively new, so we're still building it and would welcome any resources that you have that you would like to suggest that we include in our library and or additional content. So we're always welcome to feedback, and we'll give you the email address to contact us and give us some more feedback on the website as we get to the end of the presentation. As you can see, this is an inside page on the website. We offer lots of information that might be relevant across the stakeholder groups. So many of the agencies that you probably partner with in the work that you do can benefit from this information. This just gives you kind of an example of how it's set up and how you can drill down into the different areas. We recognize that agencies have unique needs and circumstances, so we offer the resources at varying levels of engagement. So when we talk about integration, we mean basic engagement might be simply a desire to have the handouts, as I mentioned before. Maybe it's things like tip sheets on positive co-parenting or low-conflict communication. The next level might be an interest in developing partnerships, and that's where I believe the extension family fits in very nicely. These partnerships might be designed to refer families for financial literacy classes, or perhaps an extension office comes in and provides relationship education, financial literacy, parenting classes, or other appropriate workshops within a safety net service delivery office. The final level of integration is where we actually integrate modules of healthy marriage education curriculum into the service delivery system. So that might be, for example, if you're thinking about a child welfare agency, where they might want to integrate it into their visits in the home when they meet with a family, or other opportunities like that. So that's just kind of an overview of how we look at our opportunity to connect with these safety net service providers. We really do believe that healthy marriage education skills are an central component to helping to stabilize families and help them move to self-sufficiency. And we believe that the partnership that the Resource Center has with the Extension system is going to be key to not only building those opportunities across the country, but also to sustaining those partnerships as we move forward. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Ted.
Thank you, Robin. And so as we transition, before we get into kind of what the role of Extension, we have a few questions we want to ask, and we want to kind of gauge what's your experience so far working with the clientele, the audience, the stakeholders, the safety net service providers we're trying to reach. And we've broken it up here into 3 questions. One, your experience working with social service agencies that promote economic self-sufficiency, such as TANF, HUD, child support, workforce development. If you would take a moment here and choose your response, whether it's a lot, a little, none at all. And if you happen to be viewing, listening to this in a room with others, with other colleagues, kind of poll the general consensus in the room, because there may be more than one of you in the room. And all right. And so, Jill, looks like we've got our responses there. And let's see. And then what about in terms of working with caregivers and parents to promote child health and safety? What's your experience working with those type of social service agencies? For example, child welfare, foster care, Head Start, for example. All right, that's great. So we've got, it looks like a good 60% of you with experience in that area. And what about in this last area, working with social service agencies that work with youth, young adults, education, child welfare, for example? I know that many of you are with 4-H and do programming with schools. How much experience do you have in this area, working with agencies in this area? All right. It looks like we, again, nice balance across the 3 domain areas that we're targeting. It's very clear that the majority of you on this call here this afternoon have experience in each of the 3 areas, and that's great. And we're really going to be drawing on your expertise and the relationships you have with the safety net providers, the stakeholders in those different domain areas. And so what I want to do next is kind of highlight to you the involvement of Cooperative Extension so far with the National Resource Center and focus on product development as well as training and state and local technical assistance. And particularly the latter is where we're going to be going, but I want to highlight to you first where we've been with product development. Now, the products we're developing for the National Resource Center are being showcased in the library as resources for stakeholders to access. But these tools are going to be practical tools and resources that enable our stakeholders to integrate healthy marriage and relationship education into their current systems, into what they're doing. You know, in Extension, we're very familiar with this type of process where we develop curricula, fact sheets, tip sheets, newsletters that are research-based that we share with families and clientele. Well, we're developing similar type of resources, but for our safety net providers to prepare them to engage families, to also help them identify tools that they can use when teaching and working with families. And in fact, we've been featuring many Cooperative Extension resources, such as the fact sheets, tip sheets, and curricula, as resources already identified in the library. We've reached out to, across the country to many of our Extension colleagues to use some of to feature their tools and materials in the library. So after this call, we'd love for you to visit the National Resource Center website, check out the library, and see what resources are featured there. You can search for them by topic, and maybe you might find something that you've written. And if you don't see something that you've written and you think it might be a really valuable resource, you know, we're always seeking new resources to review and consider for inclusion in the library. So if you happen to have something that you think, here's a fact sheet on financial literacy that might really be helpful when talking with couples, that could, you know, or a communication fact sheet, or a parenting fact sheet that reinforces and strengthens the couple or co-parenting relationship. You know, if you have some of those tools, some of you also do nutrition and food safety, and if there's something that you think might reinforce and strengthen the couple relationship, couple and marital relationship, you know, we'd be happy to talk with you. Send us an email. We could review it and then follow up with you on whether it's something we can share in our library. But we're also developing a lot of new resources as well to fill gaps where we need to educate and prepare and equip our stakeholders with knowledge and resources to integrate this into the services they provide. We're also coordinating several trainings and technical assistance opportunities to equip our stakeholders with what's promising best practice out there, you know, strategies to integrate healthy marriage and relationship education into what they do. You know, a lot of what we're trying to do is first educate and inform them on what healthy marriage and relationship education is and how it directly relates to the work they do. Then we're going to be working with them on identifying strategies to actually move that forward, move it from knowledge into practice, into action. And so we develop curricula and supplemental materials that meet the stakeholders' needs. We're building off of some extension resources and models and curricula and tools that, and then adapting them to make sure that they speak to our stakeholders and their missions. We are reaching out to various stakeholder groups to engage them in dialogue and conversation about what works, what doesn't work, strategies for engaging them, engaging their families, engaging their caseworkers on the ground who work with families. And so this is an area where we particularly will really rely on your expertise, your relationship with these stakeholders at the county level, hopefully draw them in to participating in some of these trainings. We'll be conducting a variety of national webinars. In fact, we have 3 that I'll highlight here at the end that are happening next month. We'd love for you to share those announcements with the stakeholders that you work with in your county, in your state. And then we're going to be moving over the course of time, by the end of the summer actually, into launching some local and state-type trainings with administrators, with caseworkers, helping them move this effort forward in their state. And we're going to be looking to Cooperative Extension for the relationships they have with the stakeholders and helping us engage them locally and at the state level. So how has Cooperative Extension historically been involved with the healthy marriage and relationship education effort? I want to share a few examples of how of what we have done, and then we're going to share some examples of how to engage stakeholder partners successfully. And Francesca is going to share some of those strategies that have been very successful in her state and her experience in this program area. First, I want to introduce you, and if you're not familiar with, the National Extension Relationship and Marriage Education Network. This is a working group of extension specialists and educators across the country who have content expertise, knowledge, and have been working, pardon me, with developing these type of educational tools for families. And so we kind of formed a working group, and I'll highlight a few of these projects that many of the working group members have been involved with over time. But if you would like to learn more about it, visit the website www.nermen.org. But our mission really is to provide these research-based resources, promote these partnerships, and to advance knowledge and practice in relationship and marriage education. So, to give you some examples of how Extension has been involved, I've highlighted just a few states. There are many other states that have been very actively involved in promoting marriage and relationship education services and programs. But I just wanted to feature just a couple of them, a few of them here. For example, in Arkansas, our colleagues there, James Marshall and Wally Goddard, have partnered with the economic workforce development folks in that area, and through some funding and partnerships with them, they've actually conducted trainings, community trainings with professionals to offer marriage and relationship education. Our colleague in Kansas, Charlotte Shoup-Olson, has been working with the military and Kansas Operation Military Kids to provide professional development training for those who work within the Army and work with families to help them build family resiliency. Our colleague in Missouri, David Schramm, has been working with Head Start and other agencies in his state to support healthy relationship and parenting education. And in fact, we're going to highlight another project that David has been involved with as well as a few colleagues from other states. In Utah, our colleague Brian Higginbotham has received funding from the Administration for Children and Families for the past several years, and has really built a very strong strengthening step-family relationships program effort, and also doing a lot with Latino families in that state. As well, in Wisconsin, our colleagues there, Linda Roberts, and they've been promoting healthy relationships to college students, which is another audience, you know, the education system, higher education. How do we prepare these young adults to develop these healthy relationships and stay on course with achieving their educational goals and achieving economic self-sufficiency? So those are just a few examples of what states have done. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit the NERMEN website and see what's featured there. Here I just kind of showcase a few curricula that are out there. There's so many more that Extension has developed out there, but I just want to highlight a few, such as Smart Steps, which is a curricula focused on relationship education for step families, couples who are remarrying, that Dr. Francesca Alibedo, who on the call today, has developed. The Marriage Garden is a resource that our colleagues in Arkansas have developed. Married and Loving It. Intentional Harmony is something from Illinois, focuses on balancing work and family, and has some relationship education tools there. Caring for My Family is something that was developed out of Michigan State, Cooperative Extension, really focusing on working with single parents and helping them form current healthy couple co-parenting relationships, as well as forge future healthy couple relationships if they're not going to be in a relationship with their child's father. And then there are fact sheet type resources like Marriage Matters and Couple Talk, which is a resource for helping couples learn communication strategies. As well, there are multi-state extension initiatives that have been launched. One example is the Healthy Relationship and Marriage Education Training Project, which is funded by the Administration for Children and Families and the Children's Bureau. And the objective of this project is to meet those safety and permanency needs of those being served by the child welfare system. So this team includes colleagues from North Carolina State University, Missouri, Arkansas, Iowa, and here in the University of Georgia, as well as many of our working group members across the country who've contributed to the development of this training curriculum for child welfare professionals. And we're in the process of a round two of training with these professionals and constantly modifying the curriculum to make sure that it's meeting their needs and helping prepare them to teach some of these marriage and relationship skills to the clients they work with in one-on-one settings. So you'll see more about this come out in the upcoming year in terms of resources that are evolving from this project. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to transition over to Francesca Aller-Bader, who is at Auburn University. She serves as the director of the Center for Children and Youth and Families, professor and extension specialist in the Department of Human Development and Family Studies, and co-director of the National Extension Relationship and Marriage Education Network. And she's going to highlight kind of some of the lessons that she's learned from her experience of others in engaging our target audience, the stakeholders. So, Francesca, it's all yours.
Thanks so much, Ted, and just really pleased to be part of this discussion to hear about all the wonderful work that's happening at the center. My focus over the next few minutes will be on those specific strategies for building or enhancing your communications infrastructure, is the way I like to think of it, in your communities and at the state level. And it can serve, I think, in essence, to scaffold, to provide a context for marriage and relationship education efforts and overall to just enhance the work of strengthening families that we're all engaged in. So I was asked to be very practical and share some pointers on collaboration with stakeholder partners. For some of you who've been engaged in implementing marriage and relationship education, this is really important work that can solidify more of a supportive structure for your work, and it also will promote sustainability through really what we're trying to do is permeation or infusion of marriage and relationship education information into all family programs and services. So building an informed context was actually the starting point for us, 10 years ago when we began with pilot work in this area, focused on addressing the need really to incorporate or emphasize more adults' relational health as a key to better individual, family, and community well-being. Here we go. I love our jobs in extension. I think we're both, the way I think of this, we're both doers and we're facilitators of the doing. We really wear both hats, and we serve as a bridge in many ways. And this occurs when we adopt or enhance our role as conveners and as facilitators. So if you think about it, this is really a role that is uniquely ours in our communities and in our states. No one else has this prescribed role. And without conveners and facilitators, agencies run the risk of doing isolated and really less informed work. But for this work in facilitating the incorporation of research-based information on healthy marriages and relationships into practice, it's really important to start with an understanding of the state of the science. And this center will provide all the tools that you need. That's really the focus. It will also work to update our knowledge base as the research is constantly growing and expanding, especially now as many have completed 5-year demonstration projects. Now, we had a really clear goal when we began building our communication network, is how I refer to it, that we wanted to find the common ground, the common language, the common threads, and really the overlapping goals of agencies. You know, what's love got to do with it, we would ask, and we really wanted them, or really our purpose was to raise awareness of the evidence of the central role of relational health and specifically adult, couple, and marital relationship health in child, youth, adult, family, and community well-being, all the outcomes that agencies are interested in. And we really wanted to develop a shared ownership of efforts to strengthen relationship and marriages in our state. So we relied on information and basic research on these validated linkages between healthy marriages and relationships, resulting family stability, and then a whole host of positive outcomes important to agencies. And we also can now rely on emerging evidence from probably lots of folks on this call and others around the nation that putting this empirical model that links relational quality to better outcomes into practice is resulting in positive outcomes among a diverse population of voluntary participants. And this is very encouraging and very important information to get out there. I'll now cover a few strategies that we used and really continue to use, and it might affirm what you're doing already. I saw that many of you have strong relationships already. For some, it may give you ideas to enhance what you're doing. I believe it works really well to set up and conduct one-on-one meetings with high-level administrators and key staff. If you haven't done this, I encourage you not to be shy. I've always been amazed at how really receptive individuals are to requests for just a few minutes of their time. And that includes state-level commissioners and directors, administrators in the governor's office, and even the governor and first lady themselves. Success of this, though, really goes hand in hand with this next recommendation, and that is to find a champion. Now, it might be you, might be someone else. We like to call ours our guardian angel. It's someone in a key position who, is connected and highly valued, respected, ideally with bipartisan appeal, who really gets the purpose of adding this important missing ingredient in meaningful ways to your state and community services and programs. For us, it was the director of our State Department of Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention. And this was really an ideal way to begin making the linkages with agencies. She recognized fully that healthy marriages and relationships are linked with reductions of risks for children. And she was and is, because she still works with us, motivated by just her love of children and to help. She wanted to spread the word on the value of the work. And no one doubts her sincerity. So she really was and is our door opener, and it's just a beautiful thing. We've also learned along the way that you build trusting relationships, and as you build them, you grow the communication network by essentially borrowing trust from others. So, rather than cold calling to initiate a relationship or connection, I always start with, so who do we know that can make the connection, pave the pathway with a literal or, figurative hand on your shoulder and an endorsement of your experience, your expertise, and motivation. And as you grow connections, I've also learned that the value, there's a strong value in finding the specific individuals, the people that you align with, rather than just seeking to connect more abstractly with an agency or a position in that agency. And in practice, what this might mean is that at an initial meeting with key staff from an agency, you might find that you really connect with, say, the deputy director rather than the director, that the information seems to really resonate more with that person than the person whom on paper might make more sense for you to coordinate with. And I believe it always works best to partner with those who really match up with you philosophically, who work the same, who speak the same language, because you really develop a shorthand in communication, I think. And really the best working relationships are friendships. I think it's okay to say that that's an explicit goal and a valuable outcome when you're pursuing partnerships and collaborations. Now, following initial one-on-one informational sessions, we facilitated a gathering of stakeholders that we're now talking about with the center. Agencies who were focused on any aspect of child, youth, family, and community health and well-being. So the nice, beautiful circle that you saw Robin put up. Now, here we presented more formally information on the Marriage and Relationship Education Initiative that we'd already discussed with them in person. An aspect in planning this meeting that I think worked really, really well was inviting each of the agency representatives, in our case it was the state agency commissioners in attendance, to speak for a few minutes on the link between healthy marriages and relationships and their agency's goals. For several, we provided additional research information, but the practice of them processing the information and presenting it to their peers was so much more effective than us presenting all the information to them. It really helps solidify the connections. Now, this type of stakeholder relationship building can be conducted at both the state and the local levels simultaneously. We found that in these tougher economic times, it can work well to utilize existing forums rather than gathering from multiple local standalone meetings. So we would offer to present and have these discussions at local, regional, state training conferences that were already scheduled for stakeholder staff and administrators. I think connections can also be accomplished with technology. I probably shouldn't say this on a webinar, but I believe strongly that in-person connecting, particularly when initiating relationships, is by far more effective. And as both a high-tech and high-touch organization, I'm sure that you, my Extension colleagues, agree with that. We then had an idea to combine staff development training. So we initiated a few years ago the creation of a new multi-agency forum for staff development using a multi-agency planning team. So we spread out the work. We served as the facilitator of an annual Healthy Families Conference. Now, we're a lower resource state that's been hit as hard or harder than others, yet we found we could do it quite cost effectively by sharing the taskings and sharing our resources. We developed multiple tracks of educational workshops that featured the centrality of relational health in a broad range of issue areas important to all the agencies represented there. For example, we had a colleague of ours speak on her recent research linking marital conflict and children's sleep patterns and physical health. It was called Couple Conflict Makes Kids Sick. The room was filled with public health staff, school staff, and others interested in that connection. At this last conference, we had over 600 agency staff take part in this professional development opportunity. We had every state agency commissioner in attendance, and the governor opened the conference articulating the value of this interagency dialogue that happens so rarely and the importance of healthy marriages and stable families as a key to multiple agencies' outcome goals. It was really a wonderful culminating moment for us. Another strategy to promote trusted partnerships, which I think we do very naturally in Extension, is to lead with an outstretched hand. You can't possibly directly meet all the needs in our communities. We looked for and developed resources we could put into frontline workers' hands, and that's now the beauty of the center's work. Those resources will now be even more at your fingertips. We also, from the beginning, were envisioning both the offering of programs that our partners could refer individuals and families to and the consideration of an infusion of information that can promote relational and marital health into existing programs and services. And that's really the ultimate in sustainability when that information is, in essence, institutionalized. It's valuable to have these explicit, concrete discussions because partners will ask for your expectations. So what do you want us to do with the information and why? And we should address that up front, emphasizing how it will help them in the accomplishment of their work. As we think about ways to connect and provide information, it's also important to emphasize equally the value of accepting and using feedback. It's easy to think of Extension work as this, unidirectional offering of information, but even well-intended, it can convey a hierarchy of knowledge. So important to think about that when you're interacting with stakeholders. Engagement is a bidirectional process that recognizes that there are many experts. So taking in and, importantly, using the feedback just enhances the relationship because partners feel valued. I know the products of the center will be enhanced through this active engagement model with stakeholders. In addition to the facilitation role, we began building our role as providers of marriage and relationship education. It's worked really well for us to recognize that we reach more people if we work side by side with others who have the same capacity to provide family life education. So rather than competing, we join forces. There's a reduction of staff in most extension systems, especially at the county level. And so we use a program implementation design that uses both extension educators and other community educators from nonprofit family resource centers to offer programs. We think this cooperative multi-agency design really solidifies more concretely what we espouse in theory, that there's room for and need for organizations with overlapping missions to be engaged jointly in this work. So those are just, a few pointers on the practice of engaging stakeholders, some things that worked well for us and continue to work well for us in these efforts to support healthy marriages and relationships. I believe there's great value for Extension in doing this work, and I expect that your presence on this call means you share that view, and that's really exciting. It's without question that it's in keeping with the land-grant mission to be a university for the people. The work to facilitate the creation of or enhancement of a communication network and information sharing infrastructure just further solidifies your role in bridging research and practice to promote quality of life in your state. And in so doing, it engages and enhances others' view of Extension as a trusted resource. This benefits us as individual workers, I think, and the system as a whole. You are then even more likely to be the go-to person in your community or state for information that promotes quality of life. And that's not a selfish goal, though. It only means that we have broadened our sphere of influence and enhanced our own capacity to do work that really matters in people's lives. And with that, Ted, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Francesca. And folks, I know if you have questions, as a reminder, just type those in, and we'll be processing all the questions here shortly at the end. So just a heads up, we'll be getting to the question and answers portion of this webinar here soon. So in terms of what's next, now that you have some ideas of how to engage stakeholders in your state, to share with them hopefully more information about the National Resource Center and get them interested and hopefully excited about integrating healthy marriage and relationship education into what they do. We wanted to let you know about some of the training events that are coming up here shortly. For example, we have a webinar series in May that is going to be introducing our stakeholders to what healthy marriage and relationship education is. We have 3 webinars specifically. One that will be for our stakeholders who work with youth and how they can engage youth with this type of programming, and what it means to engage youth in relationship education. We also have a webinar that will be targeted towards those who work with workforce development and what this means for the work they do. And last, a webinar targeting those who primarily work with caregivers, parents, around promoting child health and safety, and why it's important that we strengthen healthy marital relationships for kids' sake, for how that impacts parenting. And those will be featured here in May, actually in June. A little typo there. Instead of May 2012, it's actually June 2012. And an announcement actually has been released, and I'll be sending out an announcement after this call to this afternoon or tomorrow. Hopefully it will be going out on the various extension listservs. And what we hope is that you will share that with your stakeholders in your state, in your county, hopefully get them excited, interested, and participating in that webinar. We also will be featuring a webinar in August, same 3 domain areas, those working with youth, those working with caregivers and parents, and those working with workforce development and economic self-sufficiency programs. And that webinar will focus more specifically on what are some promising practices for integrating healthy marriage and relationship education into the services they provide. We're going to be drawing on some of the feedback and expertise of our stakeholders in the different domain areas, collecting that information from them actually in July during a meeting we'll be having in Washington. And then after August, we're going to be launching these regional and state collaboration institutes, bringing those type of trainings, those meetings to the state level, bringing stakeholders together to at the same table to have some discussions about what this means in their state and what are some ways that they can engage and train their colleagues, their caseworkers that work directly with the families to use these skills, to integrate marriage and relationship education skills into the work they do. So, what I want to close with kind of a comment shared by what Seaman Neff, who's considered one of our fathers of extension. You know, he said that what a man hears, he may doubt. What he sees, he may possibly doubt. But what he does himself, he cannot doubt. And what we're hoping to do is, you know, that hopefully what you've heard today excites you, hopefully interests you to take action. We hope that as you get involved and see what this is about and see the benefits and actually get involved with healthy marriage and relationship education programming, that you'll get even more excited, but hopefully you'll also get the stakeholders, the partners that you work with, excited to see the value of this, the difference it makes in families' lives. But, you know, what's most importantly is that you actually get involved. You know, help us share the announcements. Help us in sharing resources. You know, I think we working together, we can all. You know, we have one common mission, which is to strengthen family health and family stability. And so I think that by working together, doing this work, there's no doubt that we can make a difference in the lives of children, in the lives of adults, and promote healthy families and family stability. So with that, we're going to transition now to questions. And so Jill is going to come back and show us here how to post your questions if you have not done so far, and we'll moderate that discussion.
Great. Thanks so much, Ted. So at this time, we would like to transition to our question and answer period. We have had quite a few good questions submitted, but I would like to encourage you to continue to submit any questions, again, using that question and answer function. So the first question we have here, how does an extension specialist join NERMEN?
Great question. We don't really have a membership process. There's not so much an application process. I think if you contact me really here at University of Georgia and express an interest, if you have resources that you developed, it's really more of a working group. There's not so much of an association, so we're really looking for those who really want to be involved in developing resources, developing products that we can turn to as a resource, as an expert. You know, if you're a state specialist, regional specialist, county educators, we're open. But it's really not so much of an association to join, but really a working group, folks who are developing these resources. So if you're interested, feel free to email me, and we can definitely chat more about that.
Great. Thanks so much, Ted. A second question here. Are the roles described only for state extension specialists, or are county agents invited to participate as well?
Oh, absolutely. We want everyone involved in participating. What we hope is that our state extension specialists will, you know, who typically receive those listserv announcements from the national listservs, from IADA, the Child and Family Development listserv, the financial literacy listservs, from different other program leaders, national program leaders. Those usually reach the state specialists, and we really hope that the state specialists will share that with their regional and county educators. And we really hope then that the regional and county educators will share those announcements, communicate with their local community partners on the ground, right there in their communities, their counties. So we're looking for the involvement of folks at various levels, with helping us with getting the word out, developing products and resources. If you have expertise in a certain area, let me know, because as new products are proposed and developed, we're looking for experts to write. As we engage states with the training, our goal is to work with a cooperative extension system in that state. So definitely, we're looking for everyone to be involved.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. Another question here. Do you offer advice or tips on identifying the right stakeholders?
Right now, I would say that, from Robin's presentation, we have a broad range of safety net providers that we're working with. If you visit the National Resource Center website, you can learn a little bit more about who those stakeholders are. I don't know if there's necessarily a right stakeholder. I think we're hoping that you will engage stakeholders that you work with that are state, federal, county funded. Many of you work with Head Start, work with it varies names, Department of Child and Family Services or Department of Social Services, your child welfare, your TANF groups, public health, education. So there's not one right stakeholder. There are a variety of stakeholders we want to engage, and so we hope that you will work with us in engaging all of them.
Okay, great. Also, another question, how do we find out more about the specifics of your upcoming events?
Great question. If you go to the National Resource Center website, one of the tabs on there is what's new, and under that there's a calendar, and that calendar will feature upcoming webinars and training events that the National Resource Center is hosting. As well, that calendar features some of the trainings, webinars that others are doing in this area. In fact, some extension in SIFAR. Many of you are familiar with SIFAR. Some of those SIFAR webinars have been posted and listed and featured on that website. So if you do have something that's being done let us know. It might be something that we want to highlight on the calendar. But that's one way you can find out. The other way you can find out is monitor the national listservs that come out from NEFA. And hopefully if state extension specialists are all on those listservs and receive those, and hopefully they will share that with if you're at the county level, hopefully they will share that with you at the county level.
Great. Thanks a lot. That's all the questions that we have at this point. Just a reminder to everyone on the call, this presentation, a transcript, and a frequently asked questions document will be posted to our website, which is on your screen, healthymarriageandfamilies.org. It will be posted there within about 7 to 9 business days. I'd like to invite everyone to participate in a few final poll questions. Just as a reminder, your responses are anonymous. These poll questions really do help us plan for future webinars. So the first one here, I have a better understanding of the National Resource Center for Healthy Marriage and Families, including its goals and objectives. Okay. A few more seconds. Thank you very much. Next question here. After today's webinar, I know how I can become involved with the National Resource Center. All right. And finally, please rate your overall satisfaction with today's webinar. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us and participating in our poll. That is all I have. I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude today's conference call. Thank you very much for your participation.